So both of you are dads, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen. Let's begin. Let me introduce everyone to you all. I've seen both of you a few times in the past and some things like that, and it's an honor to know you. I want everyone else to know. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to being a part of Active Defenders webinar. This school year has just started off with some crazy statistics. Many of you may have seen and realized the uptick in violence that we have in schools, and I just don't think there could be a more timely time to have such a topic and invite some friends that are folks that are dear to my heart and also have been just so gracious to be a part of what Active Defender is doing, to be able to share with you. To my right, on the far right of the screen, this is Mr. Nate Donham. I actually met Nate years ago when special introduction got me to be doing a little bit of teaching to his community. Nate is a retired master sergeant at the U.S. Army. He spent 21 and a half years as a signal support specialist, 16 years in an honorable career that was spent with the Special Missions Unit located out of Fort Bragg here in North Carolina. Whereas a Special Operations Communications non-commissioned officer, Nate held many notable positions such as a Special Operations Team Sergeant and C4I Capabilities Sergeant Major. As part of Nate's career in Special Operations, he has deployed, now think about this, 22 times with over 1,000 direct action missions and been responsible for the health, welfare, and professional development of 26 other communication personnel located across 3 continents. Accumulating his career in research and development, this is where I got to meet Nate as he headed the R&D team for some folks that work for our president. He worked on many programs such as ATAC, autonomous vehicles, tactical networks, and drones. And currently, Nate is the founder of Freedom Atlantic, a company that provides engineering hardware and solutions to the Department of Defense. And I think we lost Nate for some reason. I hope he'll get joined back in. Chris, can you see Nate, or is he showing on your screen or not?
No, he popped out for a second. He'll probably come right back in.
I'm sure he will. I know there's a lot of things you all have to look after. Joining Nate with this is Mr. Chris Ingles. Chris is he is the Master Chief Chris Ingles, actually. He has a 20-year career in the United States Navy as an information systems technician and command senior enlisted leader. He spent 13 years as a submarine communicator before entering the Special Operations in 2013 and served as a Special Missions Communication Unit. During Chris's most recent deployment, he has served as deployed troop sergeant major, leading an entire deployed communication force of over 100 communications spread across multiple countries and continents, supporting our President of the United States, our President's directed actions against terrorism and near-peer advisory aggressions. Chris still serves and is actively a part of this. He has deployed 21 times, managing training, readiness, and functions in thousands of communications. And Chris remains at the forefront of technology, tactics, and employment of the best solutions to our nation's toughest challenges. Chris has spent years in research and development, engineering, and holds a degree in organizational leadership. And he's also a financial genius. I've just learned this about him recently. And so just amazing.
Yeah, hey, I just want to take a quick second to let everybody online know that we really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to one, do this and take the time to prepare for stuff like this in the first place. Nate and I are both dads, and we definitely appreciate you letting us be a part of this. But without further ado, I think the first thing about that question is just, have an awareness of what normal looks like, so you know when things aren't right. That's one of the biggest things we train on all the time is, what does right look like? so you know what wrong is, or when something looks out of place and you can take some kind of action. The biggest thing too is a plan in place to protect life. You want to know who's in charge, what should people do or not do, and then how are you going to communicate? I'll let Nate speak on that a little bit, but communication is the key to everything, especially in what we do, and definitely in a bad situation.
Yeah, I agree, Chris, and I want to echo what Chris said. Thank you for everything that you guys do, keeping our kids safe. I know it's a big job, especially nowadays. The world is way different than how it used to be when I was a kid. And I agree with Chris here that the plan, or a plan, is really important, right, to reacting to an event such as an active shooter. A plan is better than no plan, right? Just like any decision is better than no decision. So I encourage you all to kind of evaluate these things if an event is to happen. I mean, just in North Carolina alone, the last couple of weeks, there was a couple of school shootings, one in Wilmington, and another one, I think, in Winston-Salem. And that was fairly recent. So, kind of evaluate, what would happen, right, if something like that happened at your location. And then really, I think it needs to be, right, everybody pulling together and kind of deciding on roles and responsibilities, right? Because you may find out that some people may have medical training, right? And it's kind of just, it's up to you guys to kind of put forth and create that plan for that environment.
Yeah, and one other thing too is, in any situation like that where it's an unknown, whether it's an active shooter, whether it's a threat of some other kind, the plan should always be step one to evacuate. But that should be a split-second decision. Can I or can I not evacuate? If you cannot, hide. That's your best next course of action. And if you are forced with a situation where you have to take action, you have to commit to that action. We talk about a lot of the time in our training where if you are going to do something, you have to commit to it because it may end up risking your life by going 50%. And then just with anything, staying calm and flexible is going to be key to any situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if, it's up to the educator, right, to really be that pillar for those kids who have never experienced something like this. And so if the educator isn't calm in those situations and they're freaking out, right, that energy is going to get kind of transferred and chaos is going to ensue. So keeping cool-headedness is one of the first things, right, that should be on your mind in that kind of situation.
So let me drill down and just ask you one thing. Well, all the things you said were great, but you started out by mentioning how important it was to know what normal is like. Once a person gets an idea of what normal is like, if something's abnormal, is it more of a gut feeling? Is it something how does that translate possibly? Once they get used to saying, hey, I really want to be aware of what normal is, whatever normal is for that school, what should they pay attention to? Are there any inner signals or whatever like that when something's not normal?
Yeah, so each environment has kind of a microculture, right? The relationship between the educator and the student, right? The environment as a whole, right? You guys know what normal looks like, and you've probably seen it in your past where a student will come in, maybe he's had a rough night, right? And you'll notice that you're like, hey man, what's up with you? And it's good for educators to ask those questions, how those kids are feeling, right? To get a better sense of that culture. And, because you never know what somebody's going through that may kind of snap, them the next day or kind of make the situation worse. So realizing that and understanding that environment and the normalcies of that, right, is very important. And you can kind of feel it too. Like, Jim, when we talk, it's like, Nate, how you doing today? How are you really doing, right? And you understand those things. So I think it's important for educators, right, to talk to their students and establish that relationship as well.
So what's really important is kind of, something's a little off kilter, do something about it, communicate, ask, probe, right? Is that sort of what you're getting at?
Yeah, and if I think if the my kids do it all the time, right? You ask a kid, hey man, how you doing? And they tend to shut down, right? And when kids shut down, they're going through some stuff in their own head, right? That's not necessarily the time to keep pushing, right? It's not necessarily the time to keep trying to get information out of them. You kind of just watch and observe, right? It's the same thing that these educators should be doing. It's like, okay, that he seems a little off today, she seems a little off today. Let's just sit back and observe the situation. No need to jump to conclusions or hey, you need to go talk to the counselor or whatever the case may be. Really, it's just a time to kind of just observe, jot some notes down, right? And I think over a period of time, either a pattern will be established, or maybe that particular student's just having a bad day.
Yeah, and I think the other part there is we have a term in the Navy, at least, never be the senior man with the secret. So if you do recognize some of those warning signs of, hey, this student is acting weird, or hey, even this teacher is acting a little strange and saying weird things, reach out to people, whether it's a resource officer, whether it's the campus counselor, call a parent, little things like that. So you're not the only one dealing with this, hey, I think something is wrong and something's going on. Get people involved. Like Nate said, don't jump to conclusions and, call the cops if somebody is looking down on a Tuesday. But just be aware of those things and utilize resources that you have.
Okay, good. So we have opened up, and I'd ask people to send in any questions they might have that got specific, and we have some if they don't come in to keep the things going. But here's one of our questions that got sent in from a school actually here in North Carolina, or from a leadership there. It says, what do you think about the use of code words for security drills? What do you think about the use of code words for security drills?
Yeah, I've been in places where we've used them and they were effective. The important thing about that is to have that plan and make sure everybody understands those plans. Ours was something to notify duress. So, if I walked up to Nate and said, hey, are we having lobster on Friday? He would know that we don't have lobster on Friday, and that would be weird. And if I was walking with someone, that would kind of tick him off to, hey, something is wrong. I need to go get someone and do something. In that instance, they're great. But I've also been in places where not everybody knew the code words. And, if there's something that comes over the intercom and it says, purple whale, if people don't know what that means, it's ineffective. And that comes back to training, drills, all those things that can help people prepare and be aware of what those things mean.
Yeah, it has to be really simple. You can't complicate a plan so much where you have to spend a lot of brain power trying to execute it. I would definitely say keep it as simple as possible. If you're going to use code words and that's kind of your strategy, just make it simple. The more challenging you make it, right, the harder it is it's going to be to execute that plan.
Gotcha. So let me just tell you what I think I heard you say to somebody. There's good times to use code words. And the ideal time is when everybody would know what everybody that needs to know would know what the code word is. For example, I can think of one ideal time would be maybe an all clear. If you got everybody, and you might have a code word for all clear, but everyone that needed to know what that is would already be in a position to hear it. But you also mentioned there's times not to use code words, if I heard you correctly. And those would be times when people that may need to know what to do, for example, visitors on campus. If you're using a special code word to lock down and you got visitors on campus, it means nothing to them. You know what I mean, right?
Correct.
And that could be a problem in terms of saying, hey, I don't know what that code word is, or not even, we need to give clear instructions when you need everyone that might not be aware of it to tell them, I need you, hey, there's a fire, evacuate the building, or there's an active shooter, take cover, hide, or you know what I mean, or get behind a locked door, or get out of the way. Did I understand that correctly?
Yep. Yes, that's absolutely right. And especially when you're communicating in kind of a crisis environment, all your communications need to be short and concise, straight to the point. Chris and I on missions have all had guys on the radio that kind of talk a lot, right? That kind of just clutter the radios. Well, we don't really need that, right? Short, concise, direct is the best communication in those crisis situations.
Gotcha. Okay, Mr. Brander just posted a question specifically. He said, Chris mentioned evacuation is ideal, and this kind of went. We had another person that says, "Hey, what are you teaching your kids or your teachers in the midst of this?" Mr. Brander says, Chris mentioned evacuation is ideal, and we know run, hide, fight training is very situational. Is it safe to say if faculty hear a lockdown tone and they don't know what's going on, then should they hunker down in the classroom and not try to run and potentially run into harm's way?
Yes. So if that's their best option at that moment, can you hear me? Yeah. If that's their best option at the moment, then they should absolutely hunker down and hide. And that plays into a whole different topic of, is the room secure? Is there a way to better secure it in that moment? What is the plan in that moment? But yes, hiding in those situations is, not everybody wants to be the one to hide, but that is the best option sometimes.
Yeah. So, and to piggyback on that is the educators need to have complete control, right? I would suggest if you got to hunker down, right? Don't let the kids stare out of the window trying to figure out what's going on. It's not their job, right? You have to kind of gain control of the situation, be level-headed, right? If you have to kind of barricade yourself in somewhere, put as much material as you can, right? In between you and where the trouble is, right? Let the educator kind of peek their head out, try to kind of figure out what's going on. Being able to use, active defender in a great situation awareness tool to figure out what's going on is perfect for that, right? So everybody's on the same playing field, so to speak. If you do have to, right, run and hide and all that, you still have to maintain control. You can't have kids, a couple of kids go over this way and are hiding because you have no idea where they're at. So the educator has to kind of maintain, right, that order, right, because you also are accountable for those students. At the end of the day, when the all clear is safe, you're going to need to know, hey, is everyone in my class okay, secure? Are they doing okay? So, keep that in mind as you're trying to, and there's no perfect answer for this because, there's a lot of things that you have to go against, right? Your fear, your unknowing of the situation. Am I in danger? Or where there's a lot of unknowns there, but you kind of have to just make the best decision off the information that you have at the time.
Perfect. So we have another vote. It looks like this is out of the West Virginia area, and they ask, is there value in doing surprise timed drills? Some of my principals would prefer us not to do them.
Can we go into timed drills as in, can we explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think they're talking about if they ran a drill. I'll see if I can type in and ask for a little clarification. But what I'm understanding them asking is, our SRO, and they don't say this, but I'm assuming somebody wants, let's do a fire drill or an active shooter drill, and let's put it on a stopwatch. And let's do it timed, but they also mentioned that it was, and I lost the piece right here. I can't find it back in the list of questions, but that it was spontaneous. In other words, nobody knew it was going to happen. Sure. Is there value in doing drills when nobody knows that drill is going to take place and you're also timing it? and I'm assuming from the way it was phrased that sometimes a principal might feel like it's not going to make me look the best based on the results. And
Sure.
so I think this is coming from a head of school with multiple principals.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense, right, when you put it in that context. And I think, I think people should keep in mind that before you do any kind of like time-based training, right, you need to go into training with an objective. You can't just say, hey, we're going to have a drill today and we're just going to see what happens. It's not, the intent of training, right, is to perfect those skills that you put on that roadmap. If you're just doing a drill just to do a drill, it's not doing you any good, right? You have to have a clear objective of being able to do training. There's an old like Army saying, right, where you train to standard and not time. I think unannounced drills are perfectly safe, right? If the faculty really knows what is going on and the game plan is set. However, you have to kind of clearly define what you're going to gain out of that training. If it's just to see like, let's just see what happens, right? You're not doing anybody any good with that methodology. And I could understand that a principal who is literally responsible for the entire school would have some apprehension about doing a drill like that. But also as a leader in that school, right, he's also the person that needs to figure out what is the gain, right, from some training like that.
Yeah, and I think realistic training, it does bring, a lot of good things to what your end result is, and that is everyone knows what to do. But is week one of the school year a good day and time to throw in an unannounced drill that we're going to time for correctness to make sure everybody knows what they're doing? No. It should be, I don't want to use the word culmination event, but there should be some workup to that realistic training event where the entire school is brought together, given the resources and tools that they need in specific scenarios in a general manner, like Nate said, very clear and concise. And then a couple weeks down the line, once everyone somewhat understands, maybe there's been 2 of these assemblies, then you can throw in some realistic training. What that's going to do is it's going to test, the knowledge and retention of what people have been learning. It'll introduce, heightened stress because some people might think it's real. But at the same time, when you do those drills, make sure that the people that are running those drills can be clearly identified. If somebody comes running down the hall with a shotgun and people think it's real, that person might get injured because somebody's going to act. And that's definitely the last thing you want.
Yeah, that's a very good point there. I also want to say though too, right? In the military, we do what is an after action review. So no matter what training that we do, we all come back together at the end, right? And we evaluate what we just went through. And I think that's an important tool, right? Instead of just, okay, drill's over, let's pack up the class, it's time to go home. I think the faculty needs to come together and also evaluate, like, well, I saw so-and-so running in circles, freaking out, those things need to be annotated, right? Because in those situations, you really understand the limitations of like who you are, like how you're going to react to things, and it's important, like I said, to kind of come together at the end and talk about those things, those observations, because you may not see what somebody else down the hall did. And so what that allows you to do as a team is to really sync together, right, and understand the problem set better.
Got it. Mr. Davis from looks like Tennessee, I think, Macon wrote, asks, is there anything that we can do or introduce in terms of our plan or our training that might help teachers from panicking or freezing up while they're trying to learn processes that can save themselves and their kids?
So I really like this question, right? Because it's a really great question. On the missions that I've been on in the military, right? Everybody's in there, and it even if it's a bad situation, you can kind of get this look right from your mates that kind of calms you down in a way, right? But you guys got to understand as educators, right? That you guys have to be those rocks. You have to be those pillars, right? You gotta do that self-talk, right? That self-confidence is to say, stay in the fight, be more confident. These kids are looking up to you. You got to get them to safety. And you have to do that too. You got to give yourself your own pep talk, because no one's going to come in that room and say, okay, hey, before this guy comes in, right? You have to do that for yourself. And you also have to do that to the kids. Everybody stay calm, right? And if you look at, if you're in a sporting event and chaos erupts and everybody's screaming and yelling, right, it gets you kind of hyped up. And if you ever notice, like PhDs, if you're going through like a seminar, they have this very like low tone, and they talk like this because they want you to pay attention. They want to have this steady tone. So tone and your own body reactions, right, are going to help calm those kids down and keep a grip of that situation. So you're going to have to be your own cheerleader in that event. And talk yourself down to staying calm and giving yourself the talk. I mean, I've jumped out of airplanes for a lot of years. I can't say that I enjoyed every jump. However, right, when we're in that moment about to jump out of the airplane, right, it's the same thing. Hey, man, stay calm. It's going to be okay. You're going to have fun. No big deal. You got this. Right? It's the same thing that you guys are going to have to do.
Yeah, I can definitely piggyback on what Nate said. There's a moment when that door opens and you're like, well, why did I agree to do this? Almost every time. But you fall back on your training. You say, okay, I'm checking this and checking that. The next step is this. And then you just move on to the next step. If an alarm goes off and there's an active event, what is your first step? Decide what I'm going to do. Can I evacuate? No. Okay, next step. Secure the door. Barricade the door. Reassure the kids. Next step. Through on, so that you're walking yourself through these motions. And, while it might be a chaotic scenario and chaotic event, you just fall back on that training that you've done throughout the year, that hopefully you never have to use.
Well, we are 30 minutes in. We've got 15 more minutes to go. And so to go through that, I want to acknowledge that Principal Cook had just a comment he wanted to share. He says, on the topic of unannounced drills, as a principal of elementary students, the concern is how students and staff will react to the training, period. Many staff and students will be anxious and also scared during an unannounced drill. And I think both of you all have young children too, or have had. I know they're not real old. So I certainly know Principal Cook is speaking to a lot. Do you think it's something that even elementary schools can work their way into, or any thoughts on that? I mean, I certainly want to acknowledge his comment and his expertise in seeing this.
Yeah, I think it's a great comment, and thank you for sharing, Mr. Cook. And I think it's important to note here that in those times, everybody's going to be scared. If you're not scared, then there's probably, you probably need to go get evaluated, right? If this crisis is going on and you're just cool as a cucumber, you may be that way on the outside, but I guarantee you most people are not going to be that way on the inside. I think it's important, right, for, the faculty is to really get a handle on both themselves and the students, because the kids, like, once if you see the kids lose it, you're probably going to lose it. If you allow the kids to lose it, you're going to lose it, right? And I can't emphasize this enough, is that you have to be like that pillar. You got to be that strength for those kids. There was a guy, we jumping out of planes, and it was like airliner, altitude, and we were jumping out with combat equipment and all that kind of stuff. And I just had to look on my face. I hated this stuff. And a team leader just looked at me. He passed me a mint and he said, "Hey man, we're going to be okay." All right. And that was enough to kind of calm me to kind of get back and regain composure. So if you go into that understanding that everybody is going to be upset, everybody is going to be anxious, everybody is going to be scared, but it's really up to the faculty there to just kind of be that example, right, and calm those kids. And it's probably going to take a little bit of nurturing, right? There's probably going to be some tears and all of that. However, the most important thing, right, is to make sure that everybody gets out of that situation safe.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize the point I was making earlier is if you're going to do these unannounced drills, work up to them, have walkthroughs, have full school assemblies where everybody sits down and talks about it in detail, so that when they happen, it's I don't want to say people look forward to them, but they will look forward to the training and be able to actually, okay, I know what to do. We've talked about this. We've walked through this. We've been through it on paper. It's time to do what I know is right.
Yeah, you got to put together a plan. I agree with that, right? The first steps are identifying what the problem is, planning, rehearsal, conducting the drill, right? And working your way up to maybe a full-blown exercise, right? You can't just spring it on, this magnificent drill and everybody's, out of control. So you just bite off little chunks at a time, right? Until you get to those training objectives that you want to achieve.
So I know together we've talked about and helped schools with making sure that their plan includes, and I'm not going to throw this out as a topic, I'm just to time because I got 3 or 4 others that have come in I want us to focus on, but we've talked about how important it is that your plan includes what are you going to teach those kids? Not just what you want the teachers to know, what do you want the kids to know? Do you want the kids to know, can a little boy go and hide in a girl's bathroom in the middle of an active shooter drill if they get locked out versus having to move, 50 meters around to the other side and be in harm's way for an extra 2 minutes, searching for the boys' room. Do you give them permission to do that? And I think it's, I just want to state, even though we won't spend time on that one, how important it is that your plan includes what are you training your kids? What are you training your substitute teachers, right? What are you training your teachers and the whole thing? So this is a question, I think, from Miss Davenport that came in that says, is there anything I can do to ensure our drills are as real as possible without making them too frightening? And any suggestions you have?
Well, you have to introduce a little bit of stress. Yeah, you have to make the kids and the faculty a little bit uncomfortable, because that's when you're going to get your best results, right? If they're just reading a script, you're not going to get the training value out of that. You have to, unfortunately, you have to introduce a little bit of stress in these environments now. But it's also something that's going to be case by case, to where, we teach kids, hey, when you come out of the cafeteria and it's time to go back to class, you guys line up on this, this wall, and no talking, and they're following a script, right, that gets enforced to them, right, so order can be maintained in the school. So in a chaos situation, they're going to have to come out of that, and they're going to have to do a little thinking for themselves. The teacher is going to have to do this stuff, but you kind of have to build in that stuff in the training. It's not an easy thing to do, and I don't necessarily have all the right answers for that. But you do have to stress test kind of the students to see the reaction, because everybody's going to react differently. But there's that is a guarantee. And so if and once again, that goes into kind of understanding what that normal behavior would be like when they get stressed. So it's all part of that accountability of reactions.
Yeah, and Nate mentioned earlier the importance of doing debriefs and after actions and all that stuff. In my last unit, everybody sat down at a big table and talked about it. What did I do? What did you do? What did I see? What did you see? In submarines, we had a specific drill team. Okay, when these drills were going on, they all wore bright red hats that said monitor on it, and their sole function was to watch everyone and write down. They would time every event. They would watch what everyone was doing, and then they would get together and then debrief the entire unit on what they saw, what went well, what didn't go well, and any recommendations to make alterations to the plan. I think that's really important, so that there's some kind of accountability of, hey, this was our plan. This is what went well. This is what needs improvement. The other part of that is involving, local fire and rescue, local law enforcement, because they have to train too. And the more that they understand your facility and the more you understand what they are going to do when they arrive, the better it is for both parties. So I would highly recommend involving them if you don't.
Well, these are really good questions popping up in the chat window as I'm reading through them. But like Chris said, in the Army, we used to have a guy or an evaluator wear a blue chem light around their neck during training. We knew not to shoot him with the paint rounds, but we also knew that he's jotting down notes. So when you go through training, you probably need to identify what they would deem an observer to write those notes. Well, I saw so-and-so do this, or, we don't have a plan, right, to get people out of this room, or whatever that case may be, right? So you do need an observer type figure, and that could be the principal, right? Because I think ultimately, right, the overall readiness of that school is probably on that position. So.
All right. Well, we're got maybe time for maybe two more. I got to combine two questions. Dwight Carlbaum asked a question that kind of goes hand in hand with another question that I have. I can't tell. It looks like this is from the Wilmington, North Carolina area, but I don't know what school it is. But from the Wilmington area, it says, how important is communication in drills and real life emergencies? And can you speak to different levels of communication? And then this question just in from Dwight specifically kind of drills down on that. And he says, regarding code words, if a man is in the lobby with a gun, do you still use code words, or do you simply announce over the PA or whatever system you have that there's a man in the lobby with a gun?
So I think the most important thing here is to minimize, right, the exposure to a gunman, right, in these environments, right? So if you're going over the pit, he can hear that too, right? He's saying, "Oh yeah, I am in the lobby," right? Someone's going to come out here and things are going to happen. Like, you can't announce, right? You can't tip your hand. I think in these environments, I've been thinking about this too, is that, in the case of that other question about, what do you do if people freeze, right? When you do these drills, natural leaders are going to emerge in that. And so what you're going to find, I think, if there's a gunman in a lobby and, you may not want to just announce this guy's or gal's or, whoever's location to the rest of the school. However, right, that communication that we're talking about, then this could be, using the Active Defender app to chat between the faculty. What do you guys see? Do you guys see anything? Okay, I see a guy sitting in the lobby and he's got a gun. Okay, who's closest to him? Where's he? Right. So, and although you may be chatting, all right, but you still got to keep an eye out and maintain that situational awareness. So don't get so buried into some kind of device or a radio or whatnot. And you kind of got to come up with these kind of plans on the fly, right? There was, these drills also, the resource officer, right? He's very knowledgeable in this stuff and can help solidify plans, right? During these events. So use all of that stuff to your advantage, right? You need surprise, speed, all that stuff to your advantage.
Yeah, and Nate mentioned Active Defender, but just use something. I would say use something. If somebody is going to be, if somebody shows up in your lobby with a gun, and right now you can't articulate what your communications plan would be to inform everyone, that should be a topic of discussion. That's the biggest important thing. And whether it's the code words we talked about, or if it's something simple like active shooter lockdown, and if that's all it is, people should know what that means and what to do in that event. And like Jim said earlier, the all clear or threat gone, or whatever it is, as long as you have a communications plan and everyone knows what it means, down to substitute teachers. I saw some of that in the chat. It's just critical that everyone understands what those communications are and what they mean and how to respond.
Active Defender actually, and we didn't do this as an infomercial, but it was born out of listening to you all and to your groups. I mean, I'm humbled that being the weakest link probably of a team to work on another project called ATAC and the things like that I got invited into, but realizing how valuable communications could be at all levels. We just want to make sure every staff member knows what the problem is and where the problem is, because then they, as the adult in charge, can make a good decision to keep themselves and the kids safe and to have a dynamic living map. And what makes it all work, right? If I'm understanding, and I learned this from you all and for your teams and things like that, is the tools are just there so that your teams can communicate and they can count on each other to have the wisdom, the insight, the situational awareness to know what to do and how to get through things in the best scenario. Well, with 1 minute left, what advice or thoughts? I mean, I know there's some other unanswered questions, and I hope I can invite you to come back and do this again for our teachers sometime. We so appreciate you all taking time to do this, but is there any last thoughts or comments you'd like to share with the superintendents, the principals, the teachers, the SROs that are all attending today?
Yeah, I would say work hard on putting a plan together. Make sure that, I just saw a comment from Heath McKenzie about, yes, I agree. Drills should be regularly scheduled and consistent, right? That's what's going to make you really great. But also that plan that you put forth, right? Taking everybody's, knowledge and putting forth a good plan and a good comprehensive training objectives that you want to get out of that. This is a problem that's not going to go away. If you look at these things, they're increasing. The numbers are increasing. So you may say, well, this will never happen. But wouldn't you rather be, putting together a plan in the event that it did to keep everybody safe? So, just realize that this is kind of this is really important, right, for our kids' futures and the safety of you guys. And if you guys need anything else, please reach out, and we'd be happy to help in the future. And anything that we can do, we'll always be here.
Yeah, really anything I can do, just reach out to Jim and he'll get in contact with us. But education is obviously super, super important. But providing that safe, reliable place to conduct education is just as important. It's just, where do you work that into the schedule to make sure that you can actually, be an effective teacher and not worry about these things and then deal with them when they happen. That's the most important thing. If your school or campus or whatever it is doesn't have a plan where you look down and say, I'm comfortable, that's time to take action and do something different. I think that's the most important thing.
So, with or without Active Defender, we want to be a blessing to everyone. And Rex Egan asked, is there a sample plan or a template? And yes, we have a template that we have put together. We don't, we're always looking for ways to refine it and make it better, but it does require work for you to make it unique to your campus. If you'll email or reach out, we'll certainly make that available to you. And I want to close with this. The world sees Nate and Chris as heroes, and rightly they are. They have put their life on the lines. They have left their families. They've left their kids. They've gone to do things for our country at our president's orders that keep us safe, and they are heroes. But they agreed to come today because, and I know both these gentlemen incredibly, because they see you as teachers, as principals, as SROs, as superintendents in school systems. They see you as heroes. And we at Active Defender see you as heroes. You are desiring to provide our children, our next generation of leaders, if the Lord tarries, the ones that will come forward, to provide them with a quality education and keep them safe in the process. So we want to thank you and tell you, to all the school systems, you are the heroes, and we thank you for all that you're doing. With that, we'll sign off, and I do look forward to having both of you all back if you're willing to do this again. Thank you for your time and all from serving our country to do this.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having us, Jim.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Okay. Bye.